What's up, guys? Welcome back to my channel. Today we are doing a full brunette balayage on my beautiful client, coworker, and friend Michaela. She works just a few stations down from me at work, and yeah, so let's get into it. I honestly don't know what her natural level is. I think she's told me before she's more of a natural level 6. But we've got all different types of colors going on. We've got demis, we've got permanents, we've got old red, we've got previously lightened, like previous blonde as well. This is what we're starting off with though today, is pretty much like level 4. But like I said, she was very clear. I know that she's kind of got a little bit of everything kind of going on underneath. And she definitely wanted to stay brunette still, but she did not want it like a warm brunette. She didn't want a brassy, she didn't want an orange, but she still wanted it brown. So with those like intentional warm brown pieces. And this is definitely something that I am still even learning as a stylist too, especially since I specialize more so in blondes. So I definitely want to make a video like this to kind of hopefully help. I feel like there's a lot of blonding videos out there, but I don't feel like there's as many like brunetting videos out there. So yeah, let's get into it. So as you guys saw, I just mixed up my lightener. I'll go extra blonde, 20 volume developer, and I'm doing 1/16 ounce of Olaplex. And then I actually also did this off camera, but I sprayed her hair down with the K18 mist as well. She did express to me her hair was not damaged, but she has had pretty damaged hair though in the past. And just because I knew that we were going to be doing some pretty intense blonding today, knowing that she did have damage in the past, I decided to kind of double up in my protection. And you definitely can do this too. Her hair felt amazing afterwards as well. Literally no damage. So I definitely recommend it. I don't necessarily feel like every client needs it, but for clients that either have very fine hair or you're doing a lot of blonding work on, you know, I definitely think there is a time and a place for it. And this was one of those times and places that I felt. So, Michaela wanted her hair to be very, very rooty. She wanted it to be pretty much solid dark still at her roots. She did not want a money piece. And, she obviously still wanted her front area to be lightened. And we did it a little bit brighter, but we did not want like a bold money piece at all. 50-50% dimension, we kind of said through the mids, and then pretty solid but yet soft on her ends. So as you guys see with that, I am kind of placing my teasy lights a little bit lower. And I'm going to talk about my first teasy light tip that I have for you guys is, so I am leaving and teasing about 1 inch to 2 inches out at the base, right? And you guys are going to see that right there that I just did. So my first teasy light tip that I have is be sure to paint slightly higher than where you started the tease. That'll make sure that you get the maximum blend when you detangle your tease and you rinse it out. Because remember, when we're pushing those hairs up, it's because when we put them down, it's going to soften that highlight line, okay? So be very mindful and intentional when you're teasing and how much you're teasing and where you're painting that as well too. So as you guys even see right here, you know, I took that down around like 2-3 inches, and I'm going to paint up closer at that 2-inch mark so that when those hairs get brushed down, I'm going to be getting the maximum blend out of what I did. Obviously, you still want to make sure that you are feathering up into your blend too. Those are all things that, again, will give you the most blendiest blend possible. Okay? All that makes sense. You're going to kind of see me doing this again right here. I'm also weaving my sections as well to make sure that I'm giving it a lot of dimension through the mids, and then to get that solid coverage through the ends. That's why we're going to be tipping out, as you guys see me doing every few sections. Let's talk about saturation as well. So you're going to see me start to cross saturate. Right here is what I kind of like to call it, is where I am kind of not just painting vertically, but I'm painting horizontally as well, like you guys see. That's going to really give you a lot of saturation insurance. I feel like when you're painting vertically, that kind of like starts off the saturation round. But then when you are, again, kind of like instead of cross-checking, you're cross-saturating is what I, again, call it in my head. That really kind of helps like open up those sections to make sure that you are truly not leaving any pockets of depth underneath. When you are lightening through previous colored hair, that is so important, is saturate. You do not want to see any dark throughout that whole section after you've saturated it. Yes, since Michaela's pretty dark, you're gonna see you're gonna be able to still see her strands through it, but you want to be sure that there is a thick coat of lightener throughout every single strand. Don't leave any strands behind in this, okay? And that's also why we're taking very fine sections. I know at the end of this, it's going to be very dimensional, very low key, very, very, very rooty, and very soft. So the actual lightening part of this does take a while, and the impact of it is going to be a soft yet bold impact is kind of what I like to call it. But that's going to be what helps you to get that lift that we are going to need, because like I said, she's got a lot of color on her. We need to get her to a level 8 without hardly little to no issue. So yeah, I hope those things make sense. Those are the two main things that I was very big about when I was applying her color, was taking very fine sections, soft weaves for dimension, and I was, again, like you guys see me doing every few sections, I'm going back through and I'm tipping out the ends, and I'm doing pretty much the same technique when I'm tipping out the ends that I was doing for her regular TZ lights. I just was leaving them a little bit lower. Again, just because we're keeping that 50-50 dimension through the mids. When you're tipping out the ends, you're more so just, again, focusing on the ends. So the main things, like I said, was the small sections, soft weaves, and saturating as much as I could out of each section. My placement is, I really just went along the curvature of her head pretty much. It was nice because since we weren't doing a money piece, it was kind of weird because I do money pieces on like 98% of my bonding clients, but I didn't have to spend a lot of time focusing in the front. Obviously I made sure to hit the front and make sure that it was still, I still make sure it's a little bit higher. Here's one of those sections again where you guys see me kind of like tipping out those ends too. But yeah, I just kind of went along the curvature of her head and just kind of went through. When I go along the curve of the head too, I kind of make my section slightly at a diagonal front, and and that's just mainly because you want it to be a little bit bolder in the front, and in a natural balayage sun-kissed way, that's kind of how the sun would naturally lighten the hair too. And then as I made my way up to the top, they kind of went towards more of a horizontal diagonal, and then those topmost sections is kind of where I went pretty much strictly diagonal or horizontal. And then also too, as you guys see, when I am tipping out the ends too, I am still weaving them. So I would say she pretty much had like 85% coverage on the ends. It looks, when you're looking at it straight on, it looks like it's pretty solid, but when you leave out a little bit of dimension, it kind of just adds a little bit of softness in that. So it's not super like in your face, kind of, if that makes sense. So keep that in mind. Every client is different with how you're going to go about tipping the ends out and stuff. I personally feel like on brunettes, and if I'm doing a brunette balayage too, especially when you're having it be really rooty and really dimensional, even if they want it to be pretty solid on the ends, I still recommend leaving a little bit of the ends out, again, just because then I feel like it just gives that most assurance of fluidity, and it's not going to be super starkly solid. So yeah, and then as you guys also see too, I like to feather into her tees a little bit as well. I do this on most of my clients. The only time I don't feather into the tees is when I'm using like permanent color as well, when I'm lightening with color on the base, just because when you are lightening and color gets on the base, and that will make a very warm band. But if I don't have any color on her roots, I will likely like to feather into the tees. I feel like that kind of acts as like a mini base break, and again, just gives the most blend insurance. I've never had an issue where that like where I feather into the tees makes it brassy. I know some people are very strict about not getting into the tees, but like I said, I feel like it helps me more than it hurts me. But everyone's a little different. If you're nervous about doing it, I definitely would recommend not, or trying it on a client that doesn't have. I definitely wouldn't recommend trying it on a client that like has a lot of crazy color history or anything. I definitely recommend it on a client that has like a virgin base that doesn't have too much color on there. Something else I want to talk to you guys about is a weaving tip that I have. So just from what I've learned, when you weave closer to the scalp, the finer stitch you'll naturally get. And the lower from the scalp, normally that's where you're going to get a little bit of a whiter stitch or like a more ribbon-based stitch is what I have learned. So when I am baby lighting, like just doing like a typical blonde highlight or baby light, I will definitely be sure to weave as close as I can to the scalp to make it as fine as possible if they want a very fine, you know, soft, little to no dimensional like look. And then if I want a little bit more, if I want to be able to see a little bit more dimension through those highlights, that's where I'll kind of like what I'm doing right here, weave a little bit further away from the scalp. So on her, I wanted dimension, but I wanted it soft. So most of my weaves you're going to see more so are done like halfway down her head, not all the way down to the ends. And I have also learned too that when I stitch right above my thumb, when I'm pulling tension on, when I'm pulling down on the hair and I weave right above my thumb, I'm able to have a little bit of control over my weave too, and I'm able to kind of have a nice little medium balance of the hair as well, where it's not too ribbony, not too wide of a stitch, but it's also not too like soft of a stitch. You want to be able to see, for colors like this, you want to be able to again see pockets of depth through, but you don't want it to be super wide. That's where when you get those, when you do those more like finer stitches, that's what kind of helps you to get a softer result. And I feel like too, the hair also lightens better than too, and you're able to get the tone that you want a little bit better also. So you guys can kind of see right here, this is not the best angle, I'm sorry. I'm going to be able to show you guys a little bit better in the next few clips. But like I said, I've learned a little trick that I have is when you're holding the hair taut and you're putting that tension on the hair, weave right above that, and you're able to have a lot more control of your stitch, whether you want it finer or whiter or what have you. You're able to have a little bit of control a little bit better that way. There we go. You can see a little bit better right there. Okay, anyway, so yeah, here I am again just working on the sides. I'm just going to kind of let this speed on through for these last few sections, and I will come back in when I am working on the back. Alright, so for the back, what I kind of like to do is I just kind of like to clip those sections out of the way just so they don't bother me too much. And I'm doing pretty much the same pattern. Again, for these, I'm not going at any angles. Not at this top one right here. The top one I normally just like to have be middle, and I kind of will begin to work my way down to a brick lay. I like to start at the topmost section because I feel like since this is on the top of the scalp, there's no like very much there's no like heat from the scalp or any natural heat coming from any hair above. Those topmost sections take the longest to lift in my opinion, so I do make it a little bit harder by doing it this way when I'm applying the color, but I feel like I get the most even consistent lift is when I start from the top and I just work my way down to the bottom. I'll kind of do it like how I do my mohawk sections, where I'll start at the top, work down to like the middle point, and then a lot of times then I'll stop at that middle point, go down to the nape, and then I'll work up from the nape until I meet wherever I stopped at. You definitely want to make sure that you're cross saturating a lot in here. The back can be difficult because there's not a lot of like natural lightning from like the sun underneath here. There's not going to be as much like natural lighting from like heat styling and stuff. So these sections do, like I said, take quite a bit to lift. And some of my clients, I'll place them under the heated lamp, but again, just because Michaela's hair wasn't compromised, but since it had a history of being compromised, I didn't really want to chance that, so I didn't want to let her sit under the lamp. So because of that, I had to be very intentional with my section placement and just how I was, like, what section was being lightened first to last, and, you know, all that stuff. So anyway, we're almost done here. You're going to see a section of how everything looks all foiled. I believe from what I remember, I let her sit for maybe like 40, maybe 45 minutes. Normally for your brunettes, they are going to have to sit a little bit longer. Most of my blondes only have to sit for about like 30 minutes. But yeah, my brunettes, a lot, especially when the previous color is involved, it could be anywhere from like 45 to up to an hour. So just keep that in mind when you are making your lightener formula. You want to make sure that it is something that will last that full hour and will continue to work strong that full hour as well. I normally will start to pull out sections at the hour though. That's kind of where I cap out. I feel like that's where I'll get, you know, it doesn't really do much from there anyway either. So, what you can also do too, I forgot before I fully start talking about toning, you're going to see me in the next couple of clips too. I will go back in and I will resaturate my sections that I did first that still need a little bit of an extra kick. I'll resaturate them with a higher working lightener. If I feel like they need just a little bit of an extra lightening kick. You're going to see me doing that right here. I'm just kind of going back through. I did that for all of her top sections. I didn't include the clip of all of it, but anyway, so again, that's another trick you have for getting max lift out of everything. That's also a good saturation check as well to make sure that you did fully saturate everything, and if you didn't, you know, go back through and do that. Okay, so in terms of lightening, to get the true brunette result that your client wants without any warmth, you have to lift 2 levels past their desired end result level. Okay? I'm going to say that again. You have to lift them 2 levels lighter than their desired end level. So Michaela wanted to be more of like a light 5, like an ashy light 5, dark level 6. Okay? So I knew I needed to lift her to at least an 8. The reason why is because you need to get that old underlying pigment out. I needed to get as much red. I can work with orange at a level 8, but I needed it to be more of a yellow orange, not a red orange. This is what her hair looked like after it was rinsed out with Fanola No Orange shampoo as her pre-toner. That helped me out a ton. Totally recommend that. And then this is her root smudge sitting on without her end gloss. The other thing you need to do is with your gloss formula, we are depositing color. We need to stop looking at brunette toners as just toners, especially when you did lift 2 levels past. At this point, you're not just toning anymore. You're not just color correcting. You're not just like, buffing out a little bit of yellow on a level 9 blonde. You're not just buffing. You're depositing new colors. So that's where you really need to let those colors fully sit on the full time. I let her toner sit on for about 20 minutes. Here it is at the end when it is all done. It looks very scary. It looks very dark. But again, we were doing a lot more than just toning. We were at this point depositing because we made her so light. So keep that in mind then too when you are making your toner formula. So for her formula, I used 3/4 ounce of 7N, a 1/2 ounce of 6AG, which is ash gold, 1/4 ounce of 6GI, 1/4 ounce of 8NB to act as her filler, and then 1/4 ounce of 7AI, all from Oligo Color Gloss. And then her root was 3N, 3NB, 4N, 4NB Color Gloss as well. And this is what we got at the end. You guys, I am so obsessed. She's actually pretty much my hair inspo for what I'm doing to my hair next. I am so in love. I hope that we learned something new about coloring brunettes. If you guys enjoyed this, I know this is a little different since I do a lot of blonding. Let me know. And yeah, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.